Welcome to the Generous Benefits Podcast, where we help employers create meaningful, people-first benefits that make a real impact. I'm your host, Amanda Brummett. Today's episode is a full circle moment for me. I'm joined by someone who was one of my first bosses back in the 90s when we were literally kids leading kids at the county seat. Yes, the mall store, and then the more elevated Dillard's. It's been an absolute joy to watch Chris Davis grow from those early retail leadership days into a respected voice in the HR field, where he's now guiding organizations on culture, talent, and strategy. Chris is a SHRM certified executive with over 25 years of people leadership experience, including roles in retail, operations, and human resources. He's passionate about coaching people, building better workplaces, and developing the kind of leaders people want to follow. Let's jump in. I would love to start with, if you can just tell everybody who you are.
Oh, yeah. So I'm Chris Davis, HR professional. I'm currently an HR manager for a company in the automotive industry. I've had about 25 years of HR experience. That could be good or bad, whichever way you want to look at it. I've definitely seen a lot, learned a lot. Started out as a very young leader, and I think that probably led me to where I am today. You and I had the pleasure of working together, and me getting kicked in the shins and everything else. That should have been my first. That should have been my first intro to HR right there.
It should have been my first firing.
Exactly. But I liked you, so I couldn't do that. But yeah, so I, grew up a little bit in retail, learned a lot about how to deal with people and what to do and what not to do in retail. In HR and in retail, but
Yeah.
HR specifically. And it's just really retail for me is something that was a springboard into where I am now. And I really don't think I'd be as good at my job if I am in fact good at my job. I wouldn't be as good at my job if it wasn't for that experience. So I thought that was really good. But originally from Texas, obviously with you, East Texas. I'm married. I've got a bunch of fur babies. We love our animals, and we work for a rescue organization, and
Aww.
it's really cool. We get to see. I think we've rescued maybe 270 cats since
Oh my
we've been here in
gosh.
Alabama. I know. So it's an ongoing thing. Of course, it makes us foster fail sometime. But
Right.
I love sports, love to play golf. Uh, People think I'm entertaining most of the time. I don't know.
Most of the time, except when you're
Most
the
of the
butt of
time,
the
right?
joke, then it's not so funny.
Right.
Nice, nice. Okay, so let's go back to those early days. And I actually, especially when I'm mentoring younger people, I
Hmm.
think about that a lot. Like we were functionally teenagers, but we
Hmm.
were running a mini company.
Yeah.
And I learned a ton on somebody
Yeah.
else's dime that then I used later in
Right.
big, adult jobs. So
Right.
I'm super curious. What did you learn about being a leader back in those early years that you still find shapes you today?
I, I think I learned more what not to do
Yeah.
back then, which of course is probably a great thing. I mean, I look back at that job as probably my favorite job of all time. I still have dreams about it at night. But it was a great time. But I learned that leadership is not something you can be born with leadership, but it's something that's cultivated over time. And a lot of it's trial and error. And I think the one thing I really picked up is that the two hardest things in leadership to do are manage people that you used
Hmm.
to be peers with and
Yeah.
giving people constructive feedback when it might be for their best interest, but it might not be something they want to hear. And once you learn how to negotiate both of those things, it makes your life a lot simpler. And so it was much later in my career where I had a mentor that I worked with when I worked for Kohl's. And she was probably too blunt, but it was something I needed at the time. And she said, you've got to deliver, if you're going to be on top, you got to deliver difficult messages. And so that was one thing that she taught me. And I had to learn how to have quote unquote tough conversations with people, but in a inspiring way. So I think that's probably what I learned the most from county seat is as much as we had an absolute blast, it was probably the funnest time in my life. And I loved working there, met so many great people. I wasn't a great leader. I knew a lot about leadership, but I didn't have the skills at the time to really execute it. And so that's what helped me. But I wouldn't be anywhere without that job, so.
Yeah, I agree. I feel
Yeah.
like we got to practice before everybody else did.
Right.
I also
Absolutely.
think about it when it talks about, we hear about culture and like M&A activity, and I've
Hmm.
done a few mergers and they're brutal, but the
Hmm.
people skills that you learn, like I can remember
Hmm.
us having brand new managers come in and us
Oh, yeah.
literally eat them for lunch
Yep.
versus people come in and that would ask questions and really take care of us, then we would do anything
Yeah.
but ever backwards for them. And
Right.
yeah, it's fascinating to me that 25 years later the principles still apply.
It's the same thing. I tell my teams that wherever I've worked, and in fact, I just said this in a meeting last week, that you can, culture is not an HR activity. Culture in your company comes from the people with the C's in front of their name. The executive leadership team, what they do and do not allow in a company is what shapes the culture. You can ask me all day for my opinion, and I can tell you the right things to do, but ultimately it's their responsibility to follow through. If you've got bad leaders, you've got to do something about it, right? And so for me, and I think the other thing too about my job that I learned was and when you and I worked together, I wasn't great at this, but I'm pretty fearless now. So I will tell people exactly the truth, even if it's painful, so that they understand. But yeah, culture is not something that I, as an HR leader, can take care of. And you're exactly right. When you do a merger and those people come in and are treating your teams like garbage, they're treating their teams. That's an indicator of the company that you're going to work for,
Yeah.
because that's allowed, and
Yeah,
that's the wrong way to do it.
absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and give yourself more credit. Nobody has those skills at 16, and we were
True.
brats.
That's true.
You definitely fell into the category of, there's those managers that people follow because they're afraid of them. And then there's
Right.
those managers that people follow because they respect them. We may not have
Right.
acted like it, but we respect the
Right.
heck out of you. And that's why we did what we did.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And probably, and I like that. It makes me feel really good. And it's probably because I genuinely cared about you guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely was no one to be afraid of. Now the shoe's probably on the other foot. Now people, it's more of the fear factor nowadays than the
HR
than the
Chris
other
is
part.
coming.
But yeah, they're like, oh my God, don't ask him, what's he gonna say? So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
those were great times. I mean, we just learned so much. It was a great time, and I mean it's cool looking at you and seeing where you're sitting right now. And if you'd asked me 30 years ago, hey, would you and Amanda still know each other? Probably would have said yes, because we were pretty close then.
Yeah.
But would we be doing a podcast and talking about leadership? No,
No,
probably not.
definitely not.
Yeah.
So, Chris, we talked about retail, you've mentioned some other industries. And one thing that I really appreciated about your experience is you've crossed industries, you've crossed
Hmm.
generations, you've
Hmm.
been in multiple kinds of work environments.
Yeah.
From all of that, and having done this for 25 years now, what do you think makes a great leader today across industries, across generations, across environments?
So I can answer both of those questions by saying the same thing. The thing that has made me successful in all of those are what I talked about earlier. You genuinely care about your people. You
Yeah.
care about their development. You care about their growth. You want to see them succeed. The proudest thing for me, even at county seat, was getting to walk up to you and say, "I got you promoted. You're now an assistant manager.
Yes.
Here's your $7.25 an hour." Back then was rolling. But those were the things that were exciting to me. I love seeing the aha moments. But great leaders, they show. I mess this up all the time, but there's a quote I love about leaders: know the way, they show the way, and they go the way.
Mm.
Right. So I know what you need to do. I'm going to show you what you need to do, but I'm going to go with you, and we're going to do it together. And I
Hmm.
think that's probably the thing I carry with me the most, is I like to see people learn, and people to get it. I can sit down in front of people and have a conversation all day long and preach at them and preach at them and preach at them. But until that light goes off and they get it for themselves, all my words really mean nothing. But I think that's what leadership is. And as much as people, bad leaders all do the same thing. They take credit for things they
Yes.
shouldn't take credit for, and they
Right.
take no blame for the things that they should be taking blame for. They don't protect their employees, and they don't do the right thing, which is having difficult conversations with people. I mean, you and I, we've had those conversations before way back in the day. Hey, I need you to not do that. I need you not to kick me today, or
Which, for
whatever
the
it
record,
is.
I don't remember why I kicked you, but you probably
Oh,
deserved
I'm
it.
sure it was because I did something to irritate you. So I'm positive. But the right thing to do would be like say, "Hey, we're kidding around. Please don't bloody my leg next time." But people won't do that. They'll sit and watch bad performance and bad business and bad practices go on and do nothing because it's not easy to have those conversations.
Yeah, I see that a lot with my clients, and HR is not my realm. I'm usually watching more operationally and strategically, but they'll
Right.
have consistently bad actors that consistently do bad things, and they're
Mm-mm,
not documenting it. They're not
mm-mm,
reteaching, re-educating, and then
mm-mm.
bam, they're fired. Like,
Yeah.
well, good luck when
Yeah.
that claim from the workforce commission comes
Right.
in, or
Right.
wrongful termination, or whatever.
It's risk. If you don't do your part as a leader, you're putting the company at risk later. And I think that's another thing that people just don't think about. That they'll tolerate behavior and performance and tolerate it, and then all of a sudden they get really mad. They want to fire this person immediately, and I'm the one that has to go back and say, "So, where's your documentation? You can't do that. What conversations? Oh, you haven't had any? No, can't do that." So it's a slippery slope with that sort of thing, and a lot of people don't understand that. They think we're just um, not letting them terminate people because it makes our day or something, but it doesn't. It's just the reality. We're trying to protect the company.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never thought about it as risk management, but it really is. They should
It
actually
is.
call you like risk and talent management.
Listen, HR is the most underrated field, I think, out there because not only do we have to be able to coach and develop people, we have to know laws. We have to know when we're putting the company at risk. We have to know finance. We have to know so many different things to help make a company run. I've worked for companies before where they would say, "Okay, we're giving out pay increases. Here's what everybody's getting. All you have to do is deliver it." And then I've worked for companies where I had to be the mathematician and sit down and come up with the formulas of who's getting what and keep track of all this stuff and make those tough decisions. So there's different companies do different things with HR and they see HR differently. A lot of them, there's a lot that think HR is just a policy police. They don't want
Yeah.
us to do anything but hire and fire people and make sure everyone's following the policy. But the companies that are really effective and the companies that have great HR teams are the ones that see us for what we are, which are the coaches and the developers. And my passion is teaching people how to be great leaders. I
Mm-hmm.
love to see people who maybe didn't have the talent or didn't the skill to do what they need to do and then all of a sudden flourish. I mean, that's what you really want to see. But that's what you want out of HR. You want a partner, you want someone that's going to help you drive your business and keep you out of trouble.
Yes.
But you have to pay attention to us if you're going to have us do that.
Yeah. 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 But
Yeah.
hey, Chris, here's where we want to head, or here's what we
Yeah.
did. How do we fix this? Or how do we work this out right?
And the good companies, when they ask your opinion and you tell them, they listen. The, but a lot of them don't. They're like, "Oh, that's great. Well, we can go ahead and keep that guy who sexually harassed that person anyway because he's such a good employee." And then 6 months down the line, I walk in and say, "I'm not giving you a choice this time. This person's gone." So I know, and that's one thing I learned too. I used to use the phrase "I recommend that you do X." I don't do that anymore. It's you're going to do X because I'm not putting myself on the. I'm not going to put the company at risk for people making poor decisions.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, it's fascinating that you even have to say that in 2025 that we're going to
Mhm.
maybe keep a sexual harasser. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the CEO of the company. Nobody's
Yep.
worth putting the company at risk like that.
No. But you'd be surprised that profits over people so many times. Do you ever watch that show, The Profit, with Marcus Lemonis on MSNBC?
No.
Great show. Everybody go watch it.
Okay.
It's awesome. It's great about how to build business and deal with business. But anyway, he had his three P's: people, profit, or people, process, and profit, in that order. And if you do any of those, if you do any of those three out of order, you won't be successful. And that is so true.
Ooh, I
If
like
you,
it.
yeah, if you put the profits ahead of the process, then you're putting sloppy work out. If you put
Mm-hmm.
the process ahead of the people, you're treating your people like garbage. And if you do both, and if you treat the profits more important than both of those things, you're going to be sunk.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to go watch that.
Yeah, just give credit to Mark Slamotis. That's his slogan, not mine. Although I say it all the time.
Okay, I definitely will.
Yeah.
So, in that line of thinking, what is something that you wish more companies actually understood about HR and where HR and leadership intersect?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I would love it if companies understood how difficult our job is.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people think that we're just sitting there, telling people no all day or whatever, but we deal with a lot of really complex issues. Um, and most good HR managers are good leaders. And
Yeah.
so eh, most. And so I would say not all, but most. Because there are two worlds of thought in HR. There's the policy police thought, and then there's the leadership thought, the true business partner thought. And I'm definitely a business partner. Even when I interviewed for the job I had now, I told them in the interview, I said, if you want the policy police, I am not your guy. That is not my thing. But I wish they understood how difficult the job really is, and
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would listen when we give them advice. I'm not just reading you something out of a book. It's stuff that I've experienced, that I know. And so when we give you advice from the HR team, listen to what we're telling you. It's going to save you a lot of trouble in the long run. But I can't tell you how many times I go back to people and say, well, I told you if you did this, this was going to happen. You did it. It's happened. And now I have to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot. That
Yeah.
happens a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like I like the part you said, you guys aren't there just to say no. You've seen
Yeah.
it, you've experienced it. That's
Mhm.
literally why, we have you in an organization, not just to recruit people, but
Right.
to bring in all that collective knowledge and say, yeah, I've seen this happen 3,000 times.
Mhm.
And there's outliers for sure, but
For
my guess
sure.
is 99% of the time you're spot on.
I mean, I wouldn't put a number to it, but probably 99.9% of the time I'm
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Even better.
I saw a T-shirt the other day that said, "Let's just go ahead and assume I'm right and save everybody a lot of time." My wife got me that T-shirt. She's like, "You have to have this." I say it every day. If you just listen to me the
Nice.
first time, this would happen.
And then those people that do actually listen to HR, actually value HR, how do you feel like it affects their culture and their retention?
Oh, you can see it. You can see it. You have a great relationship with those people. They in turn wind up having great relationships with their people. You see that culture shift you're talking about. You see people getting promoted. You see longevity. I mean, you can take for example, place where I'm working now. We've really forged a great relationship with a particular department that was struggling. And, it was probably the weakest department in the company when I got there. We've got such a good relationship now with them. We've mentored them a lot. And part of mentoring is them accepting it. And
Mm-hmm.
they accept it and they want to learn. And now they've got the best retention rates. They've got a bench, three people deep for every role. I know.
Wow.
It's amazing. So now they're one of the strongest groups, but it's a lot of it's because they wanted to hear what we had to say and they want to help us work them through. Now, in the beginning, yeah, it was a lot of you can't do that, you can't do that, don't say that. And now more of like it's, hey, I was going to do this. What do you think? It's great. That sounds fantastic. So they wind up being such good partners for us and really sort of being our own advocates when we're not around. So it's great. It really works.
Nice. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that, especially when you get to proactively go in and really do what you do well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's
So
one's fun.
I know you have not given yourself much credit for county seat and Dillard's, but you really were a good
Well,
coach even
well,
back
thank you.
then.
Thanks.
And it's been fun to watch your career and see it
Hmm.
grow. And I would say that you're known as a good coach and mentor in the industry.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, when people come to you and they're taking on a leadership role for the first time and they say, Chris, what do I do? What advice do you give them?
Never use the word boss as a four-letter word. Never say that. You're never someone's boss. You're not even their manager. You're their leader.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing. You manage time. You manage tasks, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't really manage people. You want to lead people. Listen.
Yeah.
You don't always have every answer. You're gonna you know, for me, I think everything I've learned, I've picked up bits and pieces from this leader and that leader. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that's what you do. Stay open to listen to what people have to say and figure out what motivates people. I think that's the biggest thing. You and I have worked with people before in the past that if I looked at you and said, "Come on, Amanda, you have the program, you can do better than that." You take that as you're like, darn right, I can do better than that, and I'm going to go out and
Yeah.
show you I can do better than that. But if I said that to someone else, they might be crying in the corner.
Yeah.
So it's all about delivering the message and tapping into each person's skill set and how they want to learn. I think that's the biggest piece of it. Um, had another leader one time say, Chris, it's not the golden rule, it's the platinum rule. And I said, the platinum rule? And she said, yeah, you of course you want to treat people how you want to be treated, but ultimately you want to treat them and coach them the way they want to be treated and coached. Like, oh, that's a good point. Find out what they really want. And so I think if you do all those things, you listen, you observe, and don't call yourself a boss and don't think of yourself as a boss, you're probably going to be in really good shape.
Yeah. That is great advice. Because at the point that you have to tell somebody you're the boss, you're not the
Yeah.
boss. You've
If
already
I have to,
lost.
if I have to say to you that I'm the boss, I'm having trouble believing it myself. So that's not a good thing. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I also really appreciate the listening and observing part. I know my question was about a new leader, but I often see even C-suite level folks come into an
Mm-hmm.
organization and bam, 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 they just start changing things. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, well, let me get the popcorn and watch. This is not going to work out well.
It's
You
going to
got
be
to
a
listen.
disaster. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens so often. People get to a particular level, they think they have all the answers, and the problem is what may have worked at this company with this set of people isn't going to work at this company with this set of people, and it's not. It's not blanket coverage. Everybody wants to work differently and be treated differently, and you've got to figure that part of it out. And if you don't, you won't get anyone's respect,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
really what's the most important part.
Yeah. Because once you have that, they'll walk through fire for you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. So we've alluded to this, but haven't actually said it out loud. Leadership's hard.
Hmm.
What has been the most humbling leadership moment of your career, if you're willing to share it? And then how did it change you?
Sure, sure. So I
Besides the
had
time I
a
kicked you in the shin.
besides that, yeah, that was just painful. I had a boss one time that I respected a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't known him very long. We he had only taken over as my leader maybe for a month or so, but I just thought he was fantastic, and I was talking to him about something, and I was in a room with some other leaders that were above me, and I like to crack jokes and be funny and things like that, and so I cracked a joke, and um, he just looked at me in front of everybody and was like, "This is not the time or place for that."
How
And
humiliating.
it was, and I said, "Absolutely, I completely understand that." And he pulled me to the side, and we talked later, and goes, "Remember, Chris, you got to remember, there's a time and place for everything, and you're too good for that, and that's not the first impression you want." So it's very important for me after that to make sure I made a great first impression before they found out I was crazy. So make a good first impression and then make funny comments in the meetings later.
Yeah. What a good teaching moment, though, for him to pull you aside and explain that. And
Yeah,
I don't know about you, but the things that I learn from most are when I've made a mistake and I'm wrong, like
absolutely.
dissect it and figure out how to never do that again.
Never do it again. Yeah, many times in my career I've uttered the phrase, "I will never do that again" to
Yeah.
someone,
I have many times and had to
many, many times.
apologize and had to, yeah.
Yeah. no matter how good you are at your job, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes, and and that's the other thing. That would be the other thing I would tell new leaders. If you make a mistake, put your hand up. I did it. I messed that up. That was all me. Because that's how you build credibility with people. There are so many folks out there that don't want to admit a mistake because they think it makes them look weak or it makes them look bad. It just makes you look courageous, and it makes you look like you have some credibility to you, and people aren't afraid to work with you at that point. If you try to create this facade that you're perfect, you're going to wind up making more enemies than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. When a leader admits they've made a mistake, I unequivocally trust them after that, because then I don't have to hold an
100%.
investigation. I know they
100%.
meant it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because at that point, if they're willing to call themselves on the carpet, if they do call you out, they're doing it out of the right place, because they're not going to take credit unless it's going to be more beneficial for themselves in the
yeah.
long run anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned that earlier, not taking credit where credit isn't due. I love it when leaders give the credit back to their team, because the team knows what the leader did and what they did. And when that happens, that just really builds that trust. And
It does. And that leader that I told you about that I worked with earlier in my
Mhm.
career, that was very blunt. And she could be brutal with you at times.
Had one of
And
those.
but anytime we got into a room with her leaders, you would think she didn't do anything. This is great because Chris does this. This is great because so and so does this. This was great because she never took credit for one thing. And that was the savviest thing I've ever seen a leader do. And that was the first thing I put in my toolbox. I said, I'm absolutely doing that every time, because it makes your team feel good. It makes, even that way, even when you're hard on them, they still know that you're going to support them in the long run, and that any heat that you give them is because you want them to be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that it's done in private. Yeah. If I'm gonna
absolutely.
get in trouble, at least pull
Always,
me off to
always. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you mentioned your toolbox. What are your leadership tools that you've taken over the years?
Oh gosh.
I'm sure it's a big one. Maybe it's a whole tool truck at this point.
It might be at this point. I don't even know if I can isolate them all at this point. I think it just boils down to what we talked about before, which is um, giving your team credit, listening. I think that's so underrated. Um, Teaching, coaching, those things. I do things different. Interviews, a lot of times when you have interviews, people sit down and go through this long list of things, and keep asking questions. That was one thing that I found. You keep asking questions, even if it's an interview or an investigation or whatever it is, and you're going to get what you need out of it without having to be brutal or to dig too hard. Um, God, there's just so many things. Can't even
No,
feel
those are
bad.
all awesome.
I should have a list ready made, but I don't. I think for me, it's just those things. Listen, people, process, profit.
Yeah.
Do it in that order. Keep your people first.
Yeah. You take good care of your people, they'll do anything for you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Well, Chris, this has been amazing. Any final tips or pearls you want to leave us with?
Yeah. Listen to your HR people. They know what they're talking about. No,
Absolutely.
seriously, I think being a great leader, I think being a sports guy, I'll leave you with a sports analogy, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, Tom Brady probably gets a lot of flack for being too perfect at times, or too this or too that or whatever. But the reality of it is, the man is the perfect example of what it's like to be a leader. You set the tone. You you get out there. You show people that you're willing to do everything that you're asking them to do. You always have their back, no matter what. You genuinely care about them, and you remind them every day that you care about them and their success. And if you do those things, just like his teammates would say about him, hopefully my people say about me, and I know people say about you. I'll step out in front of that truck. I'll run through that brick wall. I'll do whatever you need me to do, because I know your motives are from a place of caring. And I think that's probably the best thing.
Yeah, most definitely. We can take so many good leadership things from sports, and that's a great one.
And Tom Brady, especially. I mean, who doesn't love Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, okay, sure, whatever.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your passion and just the intelligence and thought that you put into leadership. And thanks for being really willing to share that with everybody.
Anytime, anything for you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you so much to Chris Davis for being here and for being one of the first people who ever showed me what leadership looks like, and for not writing me up when I kicked him in the shin at work. If you're leading a team or just reflecting on what kind of leader you want to be, Chris's wisdom will help you create a rewarding and satisfying work environment. Thanks for listening.